And we are live. Welcome to another episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here and around the world. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and let's get started. And we're back. Thank you again for joining me today. So, to start off, the first of our news that we're going to talk about is Amazon. Now, we've been talking about Amazon for several weeks, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and today is no different. And one of the main issues that's at the top of any news articles, if you were to check any website, is the issue that how Amazon treats its employees. Now, there have been many reports in recent months during the pandemic, most especially during the pandemic, that the situation at the warehouse where many workers congregate, work together in close proximity, can be considered hazardous or dangerous to the welfare of any individual. And there have been instances where a worker tries to report it, and what tends to happen is the companies tend to shun it away, and seems at worst is fire their employees so that there's no reports that would be heard. And if that were the case, they would go to court, use their obviously the resources which they have to fight against any bad PR news. So in this case, as more and more reports have been coming in, so it's not just in the United States that you've been hearing, issues of wages, unfair wages for employees, but it's also around the world. So in this article, over 400 lawmakers from around 34 countries worldwide have signed a letter stating that, Jeff Bezos of Amazon's, the days of impunity are now over. In a sense that they are on notice in terms of, I think the pandemic has showed what the company is lacking in terms of protecting the interests of their employees. And this all started way back in Black Friday, where they held a protest against Amazon, wherein employees, trade unionists, and activists used under the banner "Make Amazon Pay." So this included also U.S. Democratic representatives, Ilan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. Okay, and what it stated here is they're accusing Amazon of underpaying and intimidating their workers, which goes back to the first point. During the pandemic, obviously, people are stuck at home. Their preferences for buying products and services have shifted to online. So obviously, Amazon has generated millions or even billions of revenue, and obviously, actually, Amazon could keep up. They even have to hire tens of thousands of employees just to keep up with the orders. And how are they able to keep that order and maintain the safety of their employees, which is the whole point of the article, and in the many cases that has been being reported. And if they were to report it, they stated that they were being intimidated in terms of not filing or going through the report of stating that it's unsafe to work in their warehouses and so forth. And another main issue that they've brought up is obviously contributing to climate change and paying unfairly of low taxes. Now, you can debate whether they're not paying big taxes or practically zero taxes in instances in United States, because obviously they, as a business, you want to limit or minimize the tax that you're paying. And if a city or state is willing to help you out, it's not the fault of the company, they're just taking advantage. But I think the main issue here is with the workers here. If enough workers have been stating over and over it's not safe, they're doing protests and so forth, I think the company has to listen to what their employees are saying and not just denying. And even Bezos have stated in many interviews that he stated that the company has a great culture. Is it the same for the rank and file employees versus the one in management? Maybe those are two different scenarios that they need to look at. And as mentioned, when it started in Black Friday, so let's take a look here. Where is it? There you go. So it all started, as mentioned, during Black Friday, where they made this protest, the slogan under "Make Amazon Pay." So the worker is stating that they need to have higher wages. Obviously, with the added influx of volume of orders, it makes sense to ask for more, not just require pay minimum wage, which is totally different from what is livable if you think of minimum wage concerns. And obviously put an end to employee union surveillance, which is kind of scary if you think about it. Keeping track of your employees, what they're doing during work, and then if you're not performing up to par, then you may be simply let go because of that. Obviously, it's becoming more robotic, and then they could just simply replace warehouse employees because it's they're not not indispensable. And this is a big problem, and it's not just in the United States, in Europe, and in many other countries as well. But according to Amazon spokesperson, which stated that while as a large company we welcome scrutiny from policymakers, the matters raised in this letter from a series of misleading assertions. Now, I don't know if you can call it misleading if there have been plenty of reports stating the contrary, if employees are complaining that there are problems within the warehouses in terms of safetiness, protocols, and so forth. Maybe you can simply say that it's misleading. Maybe it's more on PR, trying to control what the narrative is being displayed or discussed in the public or in media. And misinformed or self-interest groups who appear to using Amazon's profile to further their individual causes. Now, when you talk of government officials intervening, I think that's part of their role, because if the problem is big enough that a lot of people are seeing it for what it is, and who can monitor or make Amazon compel to make significant changes if that's the case. Obviously, the government is the only one who can dictate that. It's not other companies. Maybe up to a certain extent, the consumers, because if people were to suddenly boycott the company, then they have to do drastic changes. But that's not the case, and that's not going to happen anytime soon. And also here, it was stated that Amazon has a strong track record of supporting employees as well as customers and their communities, including providing safe working conditions and competitive wage and benefits, leading to climate change with climate pledge commitment to be net zero carbon by 2040 and paying billions of dollars in tax globally. And looking forward to continue dialogue with interests of both parties. Now, you know, I have no problem with their tax issues there, whether they're paying a high tax amount or a low tax amount. Obviously, companies want to benefit from different locations. That's why they are always looking for different or moving to a different region or even country to that point so that they can reap the benefits of low tax because they generate tens of thousands of employees or work for people to have a job. But the main issue here is the working condition, especially the competitive wage. With the revenue that Amazon is generating, especially this year, I think they could, not just increase the wages of managerial positions, but as well as rank and file, because they're your frontliners, right? They're the ones who deals with the packages, sifting through the different packages, placing them in the proper packages, delivery trucks, and so forth. And they're taking a lot of risk compared to the managerial people who are at the confines of their homes or even in their offices, so they don't have to deal with interacting with other people. And I've seen in one of the videos that I think it was in France, in one of their warehouse, a lot of workers are congregating in the same facility in one room. They're close to one another. There's no safety protocols, no wearing a mask of such. So you could just imagine the risk that those people are going through. And if they are going to complain, they can be just let go, can be fired, and this does not bode well. And I think Amazon, even Mr. Bezos has to, start listening to your people. If you really do care about culture to your employees, I think even at the bottom they do matter, right? Since you've been employing tens of thousands of employees here, and I think right now they are employing a little over a million with the spike of demand worldwide. So 1 million employees employed by Amazon is a significant amount, right? And obviously, according to those who are stating that Amazon can afford to pay its workers, and as well as its environmental costs and its taxes. Now, my issue here is with the workers. Obviously, the safety and welfare of your employees should be number one here. And if it's were just one incident, one employee complaining, if it's a successive, over and over continuous reporting of employees stating that they're revolting already, that's why unionizing is another way for them to group together. But guess again, Amazon is against that because they're saying that it's not necessary because they have a good relationship with employees. Then you show that to your employees. Otherwise, with things the way it's turning out, the only recourse for employees is whether through the help of the government or unionizing and of such. And it's not just the worldwide different countries that are going against Amazon here. Again, here on a related story, Amazon is facing a federal lawsuit over firing of a warehouse worker. Again, it's the same scenario. So in this case, the worker is Courtney Bowden, who was stated violated labor laws in terms of advocating for better working conditions when the company abruptly let her go. So it's the same issue that has been cropping up over and over. That I don't know what's the strategy of Amazon here because they're trying to save on cost, but in terms of the fees you have to pay your not employees, but the fees that you have to pay your lawyers, the PR, the marketing, all of those, that cost hundreds of millions of dollars as well, right? And obviously, Bowden is one of the many workers fighting for paid time off at Amazon warehouses as the pandemic intensified. While the company stated that it was rolling out increased safety measures, workers continue to get sick, right? So if the company is doing what they're supposed to do, protect the interests of their employees, then it should have been mitigated or even extinguished to the fact. And what happens here, executives became increasingly hostile to employee organizing efforts, so meaning working together. So does the employee here have a case? Maybe so. And obviously, are employees asking too much in terms of improving the welfare, the state of what do you call this, of their workplace environment, right? I think that's not asking too much, right? And according to Chris Moss here, a warehouse worker also in Staten Island, organized a major walkout to protest lack of personal protective equipment for employees. You can just imagine, no face mask, face shield, and so forth. And again, Amazon fired Smalls and coordinate a campaign to label him as not smart or articulate. So defaming the individual because he's trying to do the right thing, and it piles up the same story over and over. It's not just in one city, in different cities, and in many countries as well. And if Amazon were to lose this case, they have to pay Bowden back for the wages. But I think it goes beyond just the wages that you have to pay. I think it just goes to show it's not just a isolated issue. It's a more bigger global issue that I think Mr. Bezos himself has to address it, the right way possible, right? If he really is into, being into philanthropic, wherein you can even take care of your own employees, it's a totally different ball game, right? You're saying something, but your actions is contrary to what you're saying. Anyway, enough of the rambling here. So continue with our story here. Next we have here is for those iPhone lovers, right? I think they just recently launched the iPhone 12. Then last week we discussed about how tremendous their latest MacBook Air and even the MacBook Pro using the M1 chip is totally, revolutionizing how we see Apple in terms of using Intel chips before, now using their own M1 chips is tremendous. But that was a positive light last week. But this week, according to Italy, they're fining the Apple company for uh, misleading consumers that stating that their iPhone is waterproof, and they're also that the phone is being rejected for stating that it is not under warranty with that uh, marketing strategy that they did. So let's see here. So Italy is accusing Apple for misleading many iPhone users, claiming that the smartphones are waterproof. Now, I've never heard that a smartphone is considered waterproof, and with the price that you're paying, I don't know if you want to test that concept. But the problem here is Apple was pushing or marketing their product as a waterproof feature. So obviously, if people know that it's a feature that you provide in your devices, then people are going to test it out. And then you're going to say later that it's contrary, that you shouldn't try to get it wet and test it out. That's somewhat misleading, which I think Italy has the right to do what they did, right? And it stated that Italy's antitrust regulator, AGCM, fined the company in the amount of 10 to 12 million dollars, $12 million or 10 million euro for unfair commercial practices linked to Apple's iPhone marketing in the country. And obviously, many companies have tried to embellish their products, but you have to be able to back it up with actual data, with actual study that you can do that. Obviously, it entails more cost in your devices, which can increase the price significantly. But if you're just trying to sell more products, more units, so that you can increase your revenue, well, that's a big no-no here. So let's see here. So as mentioned, in the article, Apple's marketing materials include the iPhone 7, 8, 8 Plus, and the latest iPhone product. So this also includes the iPhone XR, iPhone XS, iPhone XS Max, the iPhone 11, 11 Pro, and the 11 Pro Max. So question is, can it last underwater for 30 minutes? Well, iPhone claims that it can do that. It can resist getting damaged underwater at a depth of between 1 to 4 meters. So meaning when you're in a pool, maybe shallow depth in the sea, maybe you can do that. And it stated that it can last up to 30 minutes. But when customers try to do that, obviously, if it's not properly protected through wear and tear, water can seep in and can damage your phone. And in their marketing materials, they did not specify that the claims are applicable to certain conditions. So it's not clearly stated, right? And that's one of the big problems. I think many customers got confused thinking that their phones are waterproof, which the fact is not really. And the issue here, if it's broken, then Apple would simply reject to fix the consumer's iPhone because it's not under warranty and so forth. So again, Apple's official website stated that they provided a warning to their consumers. Now, the company stated that they should avoid using their iPhone while taking a bath or going for a swim. Now, obviously, it's not logical to bring your phone when you're swimming, but if it's stated like in your marketing material that it can, it's waterproof, then you would test it out. And especially if you're trying to be mobile, you always carry your phone or even your smartwatch and so forth. And it's also stated that owners are supposed to avoid exposing their device to high velocity water. I don't know what instance you would pressurize water to to damage your phone, but it's stated that it can be protected, but that's not the case. And also, Apple warned consumers to not intentionally put their gadgets underwater. So again, it clearly states here that it's conflicting with their marketing material with the one that they're stating in their website. Are they backtracking after the fact they have provided so much, flair to their product so that it convinces customers to buy more of your product? Obviously, at the end, who loses out? The customers, right? So obviously, customers will feel cheated in a sense, and Apple can do better. If you have a great product to begin with, no need to embellish it. The product will sell itself, right? With the current generations of products that they're selling, from the iPhones to the laptops and desktops as well. So they can do always better. But with their strategies, somewhat it gets infuriating. That's why for the longest time I haven't used any Apple products. But if you do it right, customers will flock to your stores and buy your products. Anyway, continuing with automotive story. So here we have we have a news regarding Kia. Now, we have previous discussions of many car makers having trouble with different parts. I think Tesla had the battery problem, as well as, I think, what was the other car manufacturer? I think it's GM or Chevrolet, I forgot. Wherein there were different problems, then they had to recall their vehicles, and that's going to cost tens of thousands of millions of dollars. And it's the same case here for Kia, when they have to recall almost 300,000 vehicles or US vehicles under the threat of fire in their engine. So Kia Motors stated that the issue is vehicles could caught fire with their engines, which is, that's a very big thing. While driving, your engine could catch fire and, could be hazardous and deadly to drivers, and not just to the driver, but to other motorists as well who's driving on the road. And the scary thing here is there are different models of Kias that are affected. So let me just go through some of the models here. Where was it? There you go. So you have the 2012, 2013 Sorento. You have the 2012 to 2015 Forte and the Forte Coupe. Then you also have the 2011 to 2013 Optima Hybrid. You also have the 2014, 2015 Soul and the 2012 Sportage. I don't know how you pronounce it. And all of those vehicles, if you own one, can catch fire while driving, and that's a scary thought. And it happened before with mobile device, I think with the Galaxy Note, wherein the battery caught fire and it's not safe to bring it in an airplane. Now imagine you're driving on the road, then it suddenly catches fire. You just imagine the turmoil, the shock of experiencing that. And it's going to cost them, hundreds of millions. So as stated here, Kia and affiliate Hyundai Motor agreed to pay a record amount of $210 million for the civil lawsuit that they encountered in the United States U.S. auto safety regulators, that they failed to recall 1.6 million vehicles for engine issues in a timely fashion. Now, the company already know when they launched those vehicles, or is it after the fact that they released already and it's already in the highways that people are using it? Even though I think it just goes to show that companies has to really go through a stringent process, even though it's going to be costly, that putting through the process of quality control is important to ensure the safety of of the citizens or the passengers in this case, or even the drivers. And I think another issue that crop out, which is totally different from the engine problem, I think a company who, I forgot what's the name of the company that makes the what do you call this? The airbags. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The airbags, it was faulty, and instead of saving a life, could kill a person if it's not done properly. So that's why company spends millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of research and development, so that they can ensure that the product that you're selling to the market is safe and sound. Otherwise, you go through this turmoil that it's a PR nightmare, and it's going to be costly for said companies here. And obviously, the Korean automaker has agreed to consent orders after the United States National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA, that automakers inaccurately reported some information of the agency regarding the recall. So, it covers from 2015 to 2017. So the main issue here, as stated here, is that the lead to bear wear, so meaning wear and tear of your bearings, and then that could lead to engine failure, which could lead to fire, as mentioned. So this is a big issue. It's not just that, is it a dashboard problem? Is it a minor component that you could easily replace and so forth? If it's the engine, it's a total, maybe a replacement, and that's time that you're supposed to be using the vehicle, and now it's stuck at a engine repair or in a dealership store. So as of today, as of the article, they've already recalled 130,000 vehicles. So because connecting and bearings may wear prematurely, which can result in engine damage and increased fire risk, which is kind of scary if you think about it. You can just imagine driving along the road and not knowing it's a ticking time bomb that it may catch fire at any point. So hopefully they can avoid any critical incidents, or lives could be lost because of this issue. And hopefully it's a learning experience for many companies that they have to really do their part in terms of making a vehicle really safe and ensuring that all the parts that goes into a vehicle has been vetted thoroughly. On a positive note, sticking with automotive stories, so for some of you who are familiar with self-driving vehicles, right? I think Tesla has already implemented that in their vehicles, but it's not totally self-driving in a sense that in a highway you can automate it, so you still have to be at the driver's seat so that if there's anything that happens in front of the vehicle, you can still take control of it. But here's something interesting that just happened. So, not just recently happened, but based on the article. So, in China, they're already rolling out the first self-driving taxis. Let me repeat: self-driving taxis, meaning it's self-driving. There's no driver inside the vehicle, so you can hail a cab, go to where you want to go, and it's stated that this could generate in the north of $1 trillion of revenue here by 2040. Sorry. So this company is called AutoX, which is backed up by Alibaba, and they've already started hitting the road in cities like in Shenzhen as well as in Shanghai. So they took the public roads. So they started with autonomous shuttles by the company on the public roads of China, but still required a safety drivers. But with the current program, they have removed the backup driver for their fleet of 25 taxi cars. So this is interesting what they're doing here, and it's something that you only see in the movies that way in the future, but I think the future has arrived in somewhat. So the company has released an official video of its minivan, the flat Chrysler Pacifica, that was able to navigate through China's downtown area. So let's take a closer look here. Where is it? Or what's the video? Here's the official video. Where the heck is it? There you go. So you can see here, it's still loading. What the heck happened? So you can see here the vehicle has several sensors included here, and it's automated. It's driving by itself. So it's like, looks spooky if you think about it, right? That it's driving itself. And can't imagine the day has come when a vehicle drives by itself. Never imagined that, but I guess the future has arrived, and this is good news in a sense that technology keeps on innovating, improving to the point that AI technology is somewhat reachable and applicable for daily tasks here. And it was stated in the video, it was able to what do you call this? It was able to swerve away loading trucks on its own. It was able to perform U-turns and even veering past walking pedestrians. So meaning it has sensors, real-time information so that it can recognize what threats are in front of it and make necessary calculations and changes. And according to the AutoX CEO, the name is Zhan Xiong Xiao. It is a dream that after many years of hard work, the company has finally reached a point where they can say that their technology is now mature enough, meaning it's for public consumption. They have expressed confidence in themselves to the point of removing the safety driver. Because imagine if this were the case for airplanes, right? No need for a pilot to drive an airplane, but I think that's a totally different realm altogether. But again, for most of us who typically drives a car, obviously, if you can use that feature, if it's cheaper, convenient, safer, then I mean I'm all for it. And how are they able to do that in terms of implementing a technology so complicated and sophisticated? So they were able to win the regulators after they have worked out how to improve not just the hardware but as well as the software. Obviously, it has to work in both ways. That the hardware component has to be solid as well as the software. If it's just one or the other, it might not work out. And they were able to do that. So how they do that is by implementing 100 vehicles driving all day in China, where they capture data so they can learn from it. So the AI software is much better now in terms of recognizing what they need to do in terms of certain situational road incidents here, which is tremendous, right? If you think about it. So AutoX currently has 100 robot taxis that they call that will be deployed within the 5 different Chinese cities, which include Wuhan and Shanghai. So you can just imagine, in a few years or in decades time that automated self-driving vehicles will be the norm in the future. It's not just electric vehicles, but we can dream, right? And hopefully it can be implemented in such a way that it's enjoyable and safe to drive, and make it more, make it more enjoyable so that you don't have to worry about, that with the traffic and everything, let the AI taxi worry about the traffic. And what they plan to do here is by next year, the company aims to double its current reach of 10 other local cities. So hopefully they can expand that in other regions and in other countries as well. So it's already available in Shanghai for public use through the use of its Alibaba's AutoNavi app. And hopefully they become a very top global market for these automated vehicles. And China projects the revenue can generate in the north of $1 trillion here. So it could be very interesting in terms of who will be the market leader in AI technology. Is it the United States, European countries, or China here? So obviously, they still have a long ways to go. It's stated that it'll take another 5 years before the use of self-driving taxis can be a norm. Yeah, we have to wait and see. But I'm excited, right? This is great news for many of us, especially who are tech junkies here. Anyway, continuing. So I think some updates we discussed last time regarding the state of the movies that are being shown this year. Obviously, with the pandemic that's going on, people are apprehensive to watch movies in theaters, so theaters have to shut down. Those who have remained open are not getting enough revenues to support their businesses here. So what does the movie maker do? Well, lo and behold, Warner Brothers made a surprise move that they've shifted all of their movies for next year anyway, for the foreseeable future for 2021, that all of their movie releases starting from Wonder Woman 1984, so that's later this month, will be simultaneously released theater-wide as well as in their streaming platform HBO Max. Now, is it a great strategy for them, and what are its repercussions? Well, based on the article here, their reasons for doing it obviously is the situation with the pandemic. It's not going to improve the revenue that's going to be generated in the movie theaters, not anytime soon anyway. So what they're doing is to helping boost its streaming services, which is HBO Max. Now, is it doing well? I'm not subscribed to their services because they have only a limited selection. It's not compared to Netflix or even Disney Plus, which has a bigger library. So they can afford to stream it there. But if you notice, Disney Plus doesn't stream all of their movies that's going to be released at the same time. No, they did that for Mulan, but it's a case-to-case basis here. And obviously, what's enticing here, if you're a viewer, if they're going to release all movies in HBO Max, if you're a subscriber, it's $15 worth it for every month that you're watching to watch the what do you call this, to watch the film, the latest film here. Now, obviously, there has been big backlashes in terms of the movie makers as well as the talents themselves, and thinking that the films that they were made was supposed to be shown in a giant big screen, right? And what they're doing here is totally, what they call it, not business-like in terms of the deal that they made. The film was made so that a large audience can watch it. Now, obviously, the problem is, no one is going out in droves so that people can watch it in big movie theaters, and there's a big issue here. And obviously, I think either way, what Warner Brothers is doing here is it a great answer here? Not necessarily. It's going to be a loss either way for the movies that's being made or has been made and is being released later this year or even next year. So the question is, what's the incentive here for Warner Brothers to stream it in the HBO Max? Now, obviously, to entice customer to subscribe to their platform, so that you'll, instead of paying for watching the movies in theaters, you'll be paying for the streaming service, which is obviously the movie theaters are not too happy about it, because obviously there's a partnership involved, so that if you were to do this, then what's stopping for the movie theaters not showing your films anymore in the future? Because you're only looking for your self-interest, saving your films, your movies, but not your partners here in terms of your talent, the producers, the directors, as well as the movie theaters. And is it a long-term strategy that will succeed? We still have to wait and see. And obviously, their goal here is the long-term play of making streaming their primary businesses. Now, unless they can create a big library in their streaming services, I don't think it will be a successful shift anytime soon. Even I'm hesitant of committing a substantial amount in any streaming services, because if you want to watch a plethora of films, you have to select a particular streaming services. Why not just go watch a film in the movie theaters? Now, obviously, you can watch it today, but you can wait and see sometime next year or even the year after that. So as a customer, you can wait it out. But for businesses, obviously, they have to look at their bottom line. How can they generate more revenue? And obviously, it makes sense for Warner Media. But for their partners, and in this case, on a related story, one of the critics here is the director Christopher Nolan, right? That denouncing the plan for directly streaming the films that was intended for movie theaters here. So, as mentioned here, is it a win-win for what Warner Brothers is doing? Well, not necessarily. And take note, there's a lot of films that's going to be released not just this year but next year, and we have to wait and see how it goes. So for Warner Brothers, they're going to release Godzilla versus Kong next year, and that's going to be pitted against the Disney's Black Widow. So that's an interesting film. Then you also have the Fast and Furious F9, and then you have Venom, the sequel to Venom. It's called now Let There Be Carnage, and then the sequel to Top Gun Maverick. Then there's the Shang-Chi, the Legend of the Ten Rings, and the Uncharted, which I'm looking forward. So there's still going to be a lot of big blockbuster films that are going to be released in next year. Question is it safe enough for people to go out confident, knowing that in the spread of the virus will not be a major issue anymore? So we have to wait and see. But Warner Brothers has made their bet on HBO Max. Is it going to turn out well? We have to wait and see, because only time can tell if this long-term strategy will work out for them or not. What do you think will happen here? Will you subscribe to HBO Max so you can watch Wonder Woman here? Or will you wait next year? Now take note, if you're going to subscribe to HBO Max, some tip here, especially here in the Philippines, you cannot subscribe to HBO Max. You need to have a VPN so that you can connect to the United States networks. Then you can register to HBO Max and then watch their films there. Okay? So if you're excited to watch Wonder Woman, that's the only way to do it. Anyway, so from some local news, Now we've been having trouble since businesses have tried to go back up. So for many businesses that have to travel from the city to the provinces, so you have to travel using the expresses here, whether the North or South Expressway. I'm sure you've already heard of the news regarding the North Luzon Expressway, debacle that is happening right now. Even the mayor of City of Valenzuela is, threatening to close, not just a close, but yeah, actually close the company, the NLEX Corporation, for doing a pish posh job of you know not implementing properly the cashless transaction from cash payment to RFID implementation in their tollways here. And the RFID was considered primitive, causing harrowing traffic and wreaking havoc in the city of Valenzuela. And if you see the news here, the long lines here, so if you have to travel back and forth seeing the long lines, you're wasting a lot of time and effort and energy, just traversing that section alone. And according to the mayor, the traffic congestion spilled over Valenzuela's main thoroughfares, meaning Maisan Road and as well as the MacArthur Highway. So you can just imagine, it's not a very wide road, so a small congestion could have a severe effect in the streets here. And as mentioned, with the horrendous traffic situation, obviously as a mayor, he personally spoke and called their attention regarding the Carmageddon in Valenzuela City, that to get their act or to quickly address the issue, but they were easy to deny the existence of such problem in spite of multiple news in different channels and different platforms. Whether NLEX Corporation is ignoring this or they're oblivious to what's happening in their own backyard here. So let's see here. So you can just see here the mayor here is stating that they were given 24 hours from the receipt of the letter submitted by the mayor to solve the RFID mess. Well, they were given 3 days to explain, otherwise their business permit will be suspended. Guess what happens? Nothing. And what the mayor is stating here, if they're not able to solve the problem here, they're going to revoke the license, not just the license to operate, but to open the toll booths so that people don't have to pay. Now that's something that's going to hurt the bottom line of the NLEX Corporation. And the issue here is, as mentioned, you're supposed to have cashless transaction, but transition of shifting from manual to hopefully the government is listening, and hopefully they can act on it and put more pressure to the company, and hopefully they can resolve it the soonest time possible here. And just imagine if you're a motorist, encountering these issues here day in and day out. Anyway, next we have here, speaking of turmoil again. So I'm sure you're familiar with the company or the network giant, which is GMA Network. Since they have no more competition in the television industry because of what happened with the ABS-CBN, well, they're now in hot waters in a sense because of backlash from their one unit, GMA Public Affairs, for requesting for source content for free. Now they're not paying for, asking for people for help for the documentaries and so forth, which generates the millions or even billions of revenue through advertising, and they're not paying said people, for their services. And this was brought about by a journalist, the name of Ezra Akayan. Hope I'm pronouncing his name properly. So the media practice is obtaining free content for publication. Now maybe if it's for reporting news, people are willing to help. I think it's okay. But if it's for for shows that for public affairs, and it's recognized as a award-winning program, so wherein a lot of advertisers would want to advertise in that show, obviously they generate a lot of money for the company, in this case for GMA. And I think it makes sense that you should pay those people who you get in contact, whether it's amateur or professional people there. And what's the action of GMA Public Affairs? They're stating that the immediate action is to put a stop of the practice of our teams requesting for use of free photos and videos without compensation, particularly requesting interview subjects to shoot video for us. Especially for that one, if you're going to ask someone to shoot a video, like in the case of Wilson Paguyo, who is an overseas Filipino worker in France, who was asked by the GMA to shoot for free videos of his life under lockdown. So the documentary is aired in real time, but Pakuyo was reportedly not compensated for his efforts. I think that's seemed unfair for his troubles, that he doesn't get any penny of it at the very least for the effort. And I think it brought tremendous attention for the company for being able to show what was life like in France. And I think at the very least they should give them a substantial amount, because obviously traveling to other countries is a difficult situation during the pandemic or even during the lockdown. So it should be highly appreciated by those companies, right? And GMA Public Affairs stated that it has conducted an internal review of its practices, that a good number of its programs pay contributors. But that thus goes back to the main problem. It's not standard practice. You're taking advantage of information, videos, photos that you generate millions or billions of pesos here, yet you don't pay a small amount or fee for those people who have helped you, reach your goal. So I think it's at the very least you could do here, right? Do good service to your company. And obviously, what they're stating, that they supposedly, it was stated that Akayan GMA is claiming or stating that it's still not getting to the point of the issue wherein the network supposedly plans to filter out the professional versus the amateur, so that they can avoid paying compensation. I think it should be paid regardless, right? As long as you're getting data, information from the other people other than your own employees, you should pay them at the very least a certain fee, right? And what's funny here is, obviously the show has generated several local and international awards, but at what expense, right? And also, it was stated that with this debacle, staff of GMA Public Affairs were laid off, but after the issue was made public, they rehired back those people that were fired. So is this a PR nightmare? They're just trying to appease the people here. I mean, if you did your due diligence in the first place, do the ethical thing, pay those people who help you, succeed and be popular, win several awards. I think that's the least that you could do for those people here. especially now in the lockdown, people have no work. That's the least that you could have done. Anyway, sticking with the local news here. So, Japanese firm is producing a COVID-19 test kit here in the Philippines here. So, the company is Arkray or Arkray. I don't know how the name pronounce it. It's a subsidiary company for Arkray Inc., which has expanded its operations to manufacture COVID-19 test kits after it has already gained approval from the Philippine Economic Zone Authority way back in September. So the company plans to increase its workforce so it can produce more, and it's now priced at 1,600 pesos for each test kit, and the turnaround is around 90 minutes for the result. And they have an accuracy rate of 90 to 98% here. So, would be nice to have 100% accuracy, but you get what you can here. Now, the kit, however, is currently produced on a per order basis with the total production output depending on the demand. Now, I think it makes sense that they should produce more so that, in the event of a spike, whether it's government related or private companies need supply, I think government should push for more companies to produce more test kits that everyone can be tested if worst case scenario, and make it so that it can be more affordable to the general public, so that it's not too expensive. Only the affluent, the rich individual can afford to pay those testing kits, or make it for free for less fortunate people, right? So the government announced last week that a price cap will be provided for the, as mentioned, the RT-PCR test. So private testing facilities can charge up to 4,500 to 5,000 pesos, while public testing centers can charge for 3,800 per test. So as I mentioned, I think if you produce more of it, so we can reduce the production cost so that the price for testing each kit will be significantly lower, would be ideal. And if the government can even further subsidize the cost, would be tremendous, so that people would be encouraged. If you feel that you think you're infected with COVID-19, you can get easily tested. Should be easier, not make it harder for people to get tested here. Anyway, finally, for our last story. So here's an interesting that was mentioned here. So according to the article here in cnet.com, I don't know if you're familiar with the Enigma machine, Enigma code machine, which was used by the German Nazis way back in World War II, way back in 1945. So for those who are not familiar, so World War II was, the Allied forces were against Germany at the time, with Adolf Hitler at the time. So the machine, Enigma machine, was a machine like a typewriter where it was able to deliver, deliver German military secrets. Okay, so the story states here that it was discovered under the Baltic Sea after 75 years of the war, and it looks kind of funny. So let's see here what it looks like. Yeah, it looks like a lasagna, if you can imagine it. So it looks like a rusty lasagna or a deep fried typewriter. So the Enigma cipher machine, which was used by the Nazis during World War II, was retrieved by a German diver searching for discarded fishing nets, and it was donated to the Archaeological Museum Schloss Gottorf in Germany. So the archaeologist here is Florian Huber. At first thought the group had found a typewriter. Well, obviously it looks like a typewriter, but it was said to be found that it is a a Enigma machine. So speculates of the story that a German U-boat or a submarine was scuttled their ship and destroyed the Enigma machine by throwing it overboard. So shortly after the surrender of during the war. So the Enigma machine was used by German military to encrypt communication. Typing on the machine illuminates an alternate letter, which is then used in its place in a coded message. So you type in there, I think there's a cipher code, and then you send the message so others can't read what the message is. What's interesting here, there were two movies that I'm familiar that was released regarding the Enigma machine. So the one is the U-571. I think it stars Matthew McConaughey. So it's a submarine thriller film where they're trying to capture an Enigma machine by capturing a U-boat or a German submarine. So it's a very interesting. You can check it out. Another is regarding how the British were able to crack the Enigma machine with the help of a genius of Alan Turing. The film, I think, was The Imitation Game, which was portrayed by Benedict Cumberbatch. So it's another interesting film that discusses how the Enigma machine was cracked, was ciphered so that the Allied forces could decode what the messages were placed in the machine here. Anyway, so that's an interesting story. So you can just imagine that World War II is now almost 100 years in the past already, which is a long time, right, for many of us. Anyway, I think that concludes our discussion for today. Thanks again for joining me today. So if you want to check out any of the articles that was discussed today, you can check out in the link in the description below. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you again next week. Same time, same channel. Take care.